Good afternoon, friends, family, and fellow gamers. We are getting ready for play day number 7 of stage 2 of NACL. I'm your host, Brimstone, and of course, I've got Cookies with me. I've got Apps with me. We are ready to roll. Guys, play day number 7. This means we are 2/3 of the way through this stage, which means we are also almost, in a way, done the year. Cookies, the standings, like every game here has so many implications. Connor, was that you?
No, that was not me, but I
That
think
was-
that the alarm
that
bells
was-
are ringing for certain teams right
It
now.
was-
I
that was
do
the
think that was
street.
fitting. That was
The street. But let's talk about things, okay? The standings. What you're seeing right here is actually the standings for this stage. We have an epic thing coming up for you guys. This stage is very close. You've got Rent Free leading, and if there was a playoffs this stage, Rent Free they'd be primed for them. Took the kids and Nocturnes surprises there on the positive side. You've got two teams that a lot of people didn't think would be this darn good are sitting there in the top 4 of the standings, and Oculix in the top 5. And then on the bottom half, the LSR, the Aerial Rise, the Gamins. If you look back on the on some of the takes we had in stage 1, you would have never imagined that would be the standings and those teams would be where they are. But they are in unemployment. You see they're at 8th. Yeah, they're 8th. But I think it's a little teaser of what we'll talk about later. I think that unemployment team's on the come up. They had a bunch of injuries this stage, and they're finally fully healthy. And West Garfield actually has less games played than everyone else too, so I think they'll be on their come up as well.
Well, it's important, Connor, that not just these standings. Do you know what we have this week?
We've got the everything standing.
The
just
everything
like a bagel
standing.
with all the toppings on it. We got the everything standing, stage 1 and stage 2 combined. And guess what? One Shot's still on top. What a surprise. They're doing pretty well, but all the way down at the bottom of your screen, you see 11th place, first place, Rent Free. They're all the way down because they don't get the luxury of adding their points in from last stage, unlike, every single other team on this list. Game Gladiators, they're about to get lapped though. Rent Free in one stage is about to get more points than Gaimin did in 2 stages, which is a little bit tragic, but hopefully that team can really return to form. But the biggest thing would be Aerial Arise dropping out of the top 4. Top 4 is where you want to be on this list because that's the playoff cutoff after stage 3. Right now, LSR, they're hanging on by a thread. They are almost falling off of the mountain because they're blundering a little bit in this stage. Took the kids, they brought themselves in to this top 4 as Luminosity and One Shot have been able to maintain their presence.
Now, usually what we end up seeing as a stage goes along is when we look at the individual performers, we usually start to see a couple of teams kind of, pulling away with the stats. But I think more than last year or stage 1 this year, Cookies, we are seeing a plethora of different names up on the board.
You're seeing Snake's been a mainstay over a couple, stages now, but I would say it's actually kind of amazing you're seeing Valor coming up there. He kind of bursted his way into the top 5 of entry. And you're looking at West Garfield, like I'm telling you, they're surging because it's like, when in the world did they get the best entry do on the league? It's actually better than Dexter's stats, or I guess even, quick maths. Woo's in the top 5 as well in entry. And Xeno, Doc. Like, did you see it coming? Brent, did you see this one coming? Because
I gotta say,
I knew he was good, but top 2 good?
Yeah, I'm looking at this list, and I think the only thing that we expected week by week was this Dexter plus 15. We kind of expected that to continue, but all these names across the board have changed week by week, and it's not for lack of players falling off. We just see these other players, Cookies, come out of nowhere and start having killer games.
Yep, and I guess coming out of nowhere. Prod can't exactly come out of nowhere since he's like 8 foot tall.
He is absolutely massive.
He actually took Kilo's spot at the top. Kilo like dropped out of the top 5 there apparently after last week, which was a tough week for One Shot. But yeah, Prod snuck his way in there apparently.
Well, I mean, when you've got a super team like One Shot, you're just gonna have guys clamoring for the leaderboards and the stats. Okay, now we have 5 matches. As always, you guys are used to that. We have 5 matches today. But here's what the best part is. As I was writing my notes for today, what I kind of noticed as I was going game by game, as I was like, guys, we have amazing storylines for every matchup. The first matchup today, Unemployment taking on LG. Now, LG obviously was that team that did really well in the first stage, struggled a bit out of the gate, but they've started to get their footing. But this is what's interesting. Unemployment, as you said, Cookies, you'll talk about them in a second. A lot of moving around on the rosters. They've had players not able to make certain games, major injuries, as you said. They're 1-2 in their last 3, and they don't have a regulation win until you have to go back 4 games ago.
Yep, and we talked about injuries. They've played 27 rounds with Mikey, and there's been 87 for the team total. That's to put it in perspective. Mikey was just out and about with his injury, rehabbing, but he's back now. And Hat is an interesting one. You're looking at the -8 on entry, but it's misleading. Hat's numbers overall are kind of misleading because on attack, he's incredible. On attack, he's actually, I would describe him as a successful spearhead for this team for the most part when they do have success. And it's not showing the entry numbers. And then, of course, you would think if for a guy who's really good on attack, he'd be able to translate it to defense. It's not really the case. Hat actually gets really cold on defense a lot and has done that a lot throughout this stage. So if you're unemployment, I don't even know. Like, do they just play more aggressively on defense? Because it almost seems like they're passive. I don't know. But you got to activate Hat on defense.
They do have a lot to figure out. Now, Luminosity, Connor, even though they started a little quiet, they are on a 2-game win streak. And kind of to their benefit as the overall standings go as well, they pick up points in most of their games.
Yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing. It's almost the DZ effect of getting to overtime. You're punching just a couple of points, and here and there and here and there, it's going to add up. And for a team like Luminosity, that definitely does help their case because they have kind of confirmed and held on to that second place in the overall standings, as well as starting to creep up and really bash up against the heels of all the teams ahead of them. And for this roster, you kind of got to know what their expectations are. They won stage 1. Now they're not doing too hot. This is not acceptable by their standards, and they're going to be pushing really hard to improve. What we've seen in these last few weeks is, sure, they went through some growing pains in stage 1, or pardon me, at the beginning of here, stage 2, and week 1, week 2, week 3, etc., with Asian coming in. But as soon as they've kind of found their flow, they're looking a lot better as a team, and hopefully they're going to continue that growth and maybe can end this season insanely strong.
Now, moving back over to the side of unemployment, Cookies, they're coming off of a loss. It was a 5-7 loss, but it was also to Rent Free. And let's be honest, with Mikey back and the effect he has on the team, although, as I said, they were 1-2 in their last 3, we've seen improvements from them as a team.
Definitely. I would say last week was extra painful because you said 7-5. I have reason to believe if it wasn't for Butters having the game of the stage from him, they literally would have won all 6 of their attacks with their full lineup in there. And they would have beaten Rent Free. I did the calculations. They won a defense in there. They would have won 7-2 if they had just won that 6-0, which they should have. And that's like, they're 6-0ing the team that should have 6-0'd the team that is currently leading the standings right now and is currently, a hot commodity. So they're close. Just need to finish. And of course, on the attacking side, they've increased their dynamics. You're seeing a lot of rush. Like last game, they had like a Glaz Osa rush. Like that was something I would never envision Karn would be able to come up with, but it was beautiful, and I hope we see more of it today.
Now, Luminosity, similarly as well, getting their things together, although Connor, and I feel like this is kind of almost a dead horse at this point, it's not the Luminosity we saw stage 1. Even though they are getting it together, it's not at that level.
Yeah, it's not quite at that level. They play in a similar fashion, but not quite. It's close, but at the end of the day, this team, I think, is overall upgraded and seems a little bit more kind of loose, especially when you start thinking about things like map pool. Or last stage, ATK, or now Luminosity Gaming, they kind of crutched a certain map very, very hard. It was called Oregon, and they played it, I think, 80% of the play days. They played it like 7 times, which is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is almost like disgusting to say that they played that much Oregon, but they were dang good at it, and they even beat this unemployment team on that map that we say, hey, for unemployment club in Oregon, those are their maps, don't take them there. But hopefully with Luminosity, though, they've improved their map pool, they can kind of bully unemployment just that little bit, as well as to focus on the mid round, because unemployment, they're -21 on entry. They still managed to win rounds, which means that this early round isn't necessarily going to be as important for Luminosity. It's really going to be the battle of Ferda and Flex versus Mikey. That's going to be a big thing to focus on.
So I guess, CJ, as we go into the map veto, could you say we don't even need the map veto? Let's just go to Oregon. Is that kind of the gist?
No, I would hope not. But you do see the famous Carnage B Clubhouse insta ban by LG. You're seeing a bank ban from Karn's team. Connor, has LG ever shown that they're like this immense bank team? That made me rub my eyes a little bit. But Oregon going away as well. Karn not letting LG go there. He said 80% of the time they played in stage 1, not getting it today. And apparently we're not getting any of the new maps. We're going to Villa, and we talk about how I think it was Brim, you said like Karn's team, or I don't know which team actually, I forgot already, but you said one of these teams has an improved map pool and whatnot. Villa is a map, it's a map that both of these teams are confident on. It's a map that I would say Karn's team has actually improved on. They beat a Nocturne's team, the same Nocturne's team top 3 right now. CZ dropped 18, and that was with, I think they still had injuries. I don't even think Mikey was back yet.
Yeah,
So
Mikey
it's
was
like,
not back yet.
they can play Villa, but both teams can.
So with the predictions, Connor, do you think Villa is a change up to anyone's prediction or could sway it, or do you think things should stay the same?
I think it's still, personally, I think I'm going a little bit against the grain if we show the predictions. I think me and CJ are in the very minority here, thinking unemployment are going to take this game. But overall, talking about that map ban phase, CJ, you were talking about, oh, why did unemployment ban bank? Because that's actually an auto ban on the side of Luminosity. But you can say here and there that maybe Luminosity won this map ban phase just a little bit because we're not going to Clubhouse, we're not going to Oregon for the sides of Karn & Co. But I still think that their improvement should help. And, you know, that one result against Nocturnes in an off-stream game that doesn't really have that great of a VOD, we just have the overhead view and it's hard to really extrapolate a whole lot of information on, might be a pretty good benefit for unemployment. I think CZ goes huge once again.
I really think, Cookies, that I wouldn't be surprised. I personally am not going to switch my vote. I just feel a little, I mean, it's 50-50, and I just feel like if I go changing it, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised, Cookies, if we see maybe some other people, the casters, Forceful, change their vote, because this is one where I feel like we're splitting hairs. I feel like both of these teams have the potential to pop off this match.
Yep. Like I said, I think if you have every reason to believe Karn's team's for real now. They've taken down 2 of the 3 top teams, or came close to it, however you want to describe it. And I think they're just on the come up. As long as they are mentally sane right now, they haven't just checked out because they're out of the playoff race at the moment. They're out of the stage 2 race at the moment. If they stay mentally strong, you should believe in unemployment in this matchup. And I hope I just convinced the casters, Brim. I hope I did. I hope someone changes.
Now, Connor, who would you say this matchup is more important for? Because Luminosity, they're currently sitting, you know, high up. Unemployment's on the outskirts. So you could say, well, it's important for the team in it. You could say it's important for the team on the outside looking in.
I think for unemployment, it's a little bit more important just because of like what the overall, if they get 3 points here, means. It kind of removes the scary R word of relegations from the picture. It really separates themselves out and makes Aerial Rise kind of be sitting there and they're like, oh, I don't think we can reach unemployment to pull them down into our situation. Plus there's an LSR right behind them as well that would kind of further push away. So if unemployment come out and get a good game going, like they very well could, as well as get those 3 points, then it's almost like a breath of fresh air. It's a lot of weight off the shoulders, and hopefully they can be even more athletic and quick and nimble and agile and looking good for the rest of the stage.
Well, the players are ready. The casters are ready. It's unemployment. Luminosity going to, not Oregon, Villa.
Well, Jonah, you know, CJ said he hoped he had convinced some of the casters, and I, for one, was very moved by his speech. Not only that, but looking at these 2 teams and the fact that we're going to Villa, Villa is not a weird map. I mean, sure, it's not Oregon Club, but it's still a very default map. It's one of the, like, I would say, you know, Oregon, Club, Villa, you gotta know how to play those 3. I feel like, although Karn & Co., we haven't had a lot of VODs on Villa, I feel like this is still a Karn map. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm switching my vote.
Okay, switching your vote. This is a tough one to predict, though, because I think it depends heavily on what is the Luminosity team that we're going to see right now. Is it the team with silent, you know, doing his job but not going crazy? Is Asian going to do his job and not go crazy? If both of those conditions are true, I'll give this one to unemployment. but for a majority of the time, it feels like Silent has been an absolute menace. And if you get Silent and Asian both clicking on the entry, there is almost nothing you can do to stop this team at all. That's the question for me, and I think we'll get an answer pretty soon as we get into this map. What type of LG are we seeing today? Because that will determine who wins this at the end of the day. Because like you said, things have evened out a bit now that we're going to Villa.
Yeah, and something that we definitely have to talk about. If we're talking about the entry game, as everyone who plays comp, who watches comp a lot, who understands competitive Siege, your entry game is not just on the shoulders of the entry. It's also on the backbone behind them. The IGL direct them where to go. The hard support, droning them in, gathering that intel for the entries to work off of. And Luminosity don't have that typical backbone. They don't have Kixrow. They're playing, if I'm not mistaken, they're playing with Ashe today. Someone who I have not had the pleasure of casting just yet. Someone who I know doesn't have a wealth of competitive experience. So I don't know if he's taking up the hard support role. I don't know if he's a GOAT support, which is why they have him slotted in for Kixrow right now. Or if Luminosity are going to have to do some weird role swappage.
Well, I can tell you what happened last time. Because Ashe did sub, I believe, 2 Playdays ago. Last Saturday, we saw Ashe sub for Eddie. Obviously not for Kixrow, but when subbing for Eddie, Ashe took up the hard support role on the attacking side where Luminosity will be starting. We mostly saw him playing the Hibana. So that is something we could see again. And again, in terms of contribution about 2 Playdays ago, it was middle of the road, kind of what you'd expect from a sub, basically doing their job, but nothing exceeding that. I expect that's what we're going to be seeing from Ashe. And as we see the ace coming out right now, potentially from Ashe, I think we've got a pretty clear answer of what to expect. But as far as the rest of this lineup is concerned, that is where the rest of our earlier questions I posed will be answered.
Something else, too, that I just thought of. Do you remember casting T3 and casting Aqualix? Villa is a CZ map. Like, forget a Karn map, right? CZ, if my memory serves correct, because I've casted CZ for a very long time, this is a CZ map. So, you know, whether maybe Silent's going to be on one, maybe Asian's on one, but I can't remember the last time CZ was not on one on Villa. I mean, dating all the way back to even like, what do you call it? Like a few years ago. I remember CZ's always been good on this map. So, very excited to get into this. Very interesting lineup from LG to start us off. Lion and Finka, you know, pretty normal, especially for Villa. Lion tends to be brought a lot as that flank watch. But we've got Glaz, Dokkaebi, Blitz, all with smokes. So, Unemployment, without a Warden, might find themselves between a rock and a hard place, staring down that Glaz.
Yeah, 6 smokes, a Glaz, a Blitz shield in their face. This could get explosive and, like you said, very problematic for Unemployment very quickly. Luminosity, they'll take the time briefly, albeit, to scope out Study, but quickly, they're just going to blitz on in, quite literally. Unfortunately for Luminosity, it's not working out so well, as Indy and Mikey will each collect 1. Furta gets 1 back, Silent gets 1 too, but it really doesn't matter. Now he's the last player standing. He's got to find 2, both Karn and Indy still alive in this site. Still some smoke for Silent to work around, but now that the rest of his team is dead and he's out of smoke grenades himself, he'll have to hit a good old-fashioned crouch walk into the site if he wants to pull this one off. Doesn't have the diffuser in pocket. That's where Indy is sitting, and the moment he walks into that Banshee, vaulting over the shield, Indy knew what was coming, had an easy pre-fire, and the round goes the way of Unemployment.
If I'm not mistaken, that is a 3K from Indy, from Indiana Jones. Unemployment with a great first round. LG thought they could play something quirky, play something freaky, but Unemployment seemed ready for it. Luminosity, clearly the plan was take very light control of Study once they knew they had it, once they knew no one was really watching the window from main. Blitz hops in, takes Aviator control, and Glaz, strangely enough, isn't really helping the execute, but is kind of a flank watch role. He was repelled outside Skull, trying to prevent anyone from A, rotating from 90/top red back into sight through the Skull door, and B, has a bit of an angle through the doorway that can kind of cut into the site, maybe C-bar? Because he did get 2 kills off of it. I'm not quite sure, but unfortunately, they just kind of ran into unemployment. It seems like they needed just a bit more control to make that possible. I mean, it did come down fairly close, so 1 versus 2 is not unwinnable, but unemployment did a great job of battling the initial tide of that rush, even though there was a Dokkaebi and a Blitz in their face. In fact, the first 2 dead were the Lion and the Finka, probably the guys you want up to support that Glaz, support that Blitz with the fragging potential, but they just didn't have it. So now I guess, you know, we get that answer. Ash was on Lion, he's now on Ace. Much more of those supportive roles as LG now try to attack Trophy in a much more standard way, it looks like.
Yeah, unemployment reading into that last round beautifully, saw it coming. So with that round win, they'll move on to Trophy and Statuary, like you said, Harrison. We do still see a bit of this extension, right? Unemployment, they still want to challenge this Luminosity attack head on. You've got 3 players right now, I believe, or maybe 2.5 playing over on the Aviator and Games side. 1 player closer to landing where they can rotate back to the site at a moment's notice. It's just Hat and Mikey playing inside of Aviator and Games for the meantime. A little bit of pressure, though, from the attack starting to build. Pat and Mikey both starting to back off accordingly. Looked like the sledge of Asian was trying to work his way up towards that 90 window, but he wasn't able to provide the cutoff. Instead, the first duel actually happens on the site. Karn goes down, but Indy finds the trade.
Indy actually with the lead-off kill. He's got 2 opening picks now on the Jaeger. It's really odd to see, because remember when he was in Challenger League? Well, he is in Challenger League right now, but his first stage in Challenger League, he was primarily on a bit of a flank watch role, kind of flex-ish on defense. You know, played a lot of Goyo, more anchorish ops like that, but he's really let loose. And I remember even that time he subbed last stage, he was incredible on those fragging rolls, but 2 very quick kills from Asian onto CC downstairs, a nade from below to down Hat. Indy trying to take back some ground, swings on a Silent for his 2nd kill. So another answer from unemployment, and Mikey gonna clean up Eddie from above, seemingly. I'm actually not quite sure where the Twitch was. If I was reading that Skull correctly, he may have even been in split. Ferda does frag back, and with Hat still down, it's a 1 versus 2 for Indy. Hat seems to be unresable, but Indy's been on fire, and he'll collect a 3rd head. Ferda goes down, now 1v1 against Asian, but on very low HP.
Case has been dropped, so Asian does need to step up, but he does at the perfect time. Clearly had a drone, or at least heard the sound of Indy rounding the corner, and with that shot, Indy will be delivered his first death of the map. 6 kills, 1 death, putting up crazy numbers, but unfortunately the rest of his team could not contribute enough in that round. We talked about in round number 1 how the knowledge, how well unemployment played off their own intel that the rush was coming, how well they acted on that and got those kills. Well, in round number 2, the same can be said for Luminosity. We were watching Ferda's POV when that Gemini clone came up into the site, identified the presence of Mikey, and identified that Hat was down. That encouraged Eddie to step up, albeit too aggressively, but it told Luminosity that they had downed a player, something that they probably didn't know up to that point. It told them what was available to push on the site, and while there were a couple of back and forth engagements, eventually they were able to take that control, force Indy into that 1v2.
Indy, unfortunately, it didn't really matter how much HP he had at the end there. Asian just put him down with a headshot. I do understand why Indy wanted to flank through Bathroom if they had info on the Sledge's position, but Asian simply better in that gunfight. So we see Asian stepping up. Silent 3 and 2. Indy the driving force for unemployment at the moment. Maybe this isn't going to be a CZ map. Maybe it's going to be an Indy map as he's now flexed onto the Aruni and unemployment. Keep LG guessing. Not going to the same site twice. They're going to go on to Dining. Typically the tertiary, though it's come a little bit further into the meta as of late. And Asian back on Amaru. Looking like he wants to Amaru into 90. He's not going to do so just yet. Opening the windows. He's taking his time. I remember the last time we saw Asian pick up the Amaru, he swung into the map and died instantaneously. And he surely does not want to repeat that same mistake.
Probably also waiting for some intel to prevent exactly that situation, Harrison. If there is a drone up in 90, then he can actually decide when it is proper to go rappelling in that window. But instead, he's actually going to enter down below. Wow. Good flick onto CZ, who definitely had the advantage in that gunfight, but Asian just whips around and denies it. An opening pick for Luminosity for the first time. Let's see how they play off it.
So I guess less of Enamaru and more just the G8. He gets that opening pick, like you said. More presence in the basement from the attack as well, looking to come up pantry. The Twitch and the Sledge duoing with someone holding that window. Drone gets shot by Indy. Looks like he's got his eyes on another as well. Silent just walks into the bomb site. He's good for one, but Indy frags, and he gets another. Down goes Ash. They've got the eyes on him. They know what corner he's placed in, but oh, Indy takes out Eddie. It looked like Ferda was going to nab the TK, but the Aruni gets the kill instead. Ash maybe resable now to make it a 3 versus 2. Mikey looking to come back to site. He's got a support hat now. But does he have the info? There's some pings. And oh, the Gun 6 comes out. Terrible timing for Asian. It puts us back down to an even contest. Ferda and Ash getting the hell out of pantry, knowing that is a completely unviable avenue of attack now, especially with Ash such low HP carrying that case against 1 C4. Mikey no longer has his, but Hat placed in Tetris in an excellent position to use it.
Getting Ash back up was key, but will it matter? I mean, he's very low HP. Ferda has also been tagged a little bit. Mikey and Hat, they've got a lot of intel to work with, as we've just seen, and they are full health. C4 in pocket can be a vital weapon, especially here from Memo, if he throws that over the soft destruction above his head. But right now, it's a waiting game. Finally, Ash will push in, looking to take this control towards Tetris, but he doesn't quite know where to look. Has to cover too many angles at once and chooses the wrong time to get on that plant. Ferda trades the first, but looks away at the wrong second, so he cannot retaliate onto Mikey in time. He'll sprint into the site, and Mikey was ready for it. Unemployment take their second round.
Another really close one, though. Down to the 1v1. LG, in the end, made it a lot closer than I expected, but they had a really good job of taking the initiative to keep up with the trades from Unemployment, right? So, I mean, Asian got that kill on the CZ, and it was a second after Silent simply just walked in. Unfortunately, trying to play off of Silent, I think a little bit too quickly. Not enough info in the site meant Indy was allowed to step up. Sure, he got naded eventually, but Mikey being able to put us down in the 2v2, Asian pushing a little bit farther. I don't really know if it's on Asian pushing far away from his teammates. I think it was going for the res, just took a little bit longer than LG had expected. If that res is done earlier, or if the res doesn't happen at all, then Asian and Ferda are able to duo into the site more effectively. Maybe Asian dies, but his death is at least traded. But either way, getting Asian for free puts us down to the 2 versus 2, and LG didn't have much of a chance after that. So well done to Unemployment, as now we go back to AVG. They continue with the standard rotation that we just saw in the first 3 rounds of the half, and with the same operators, if I'm not mistaken, if not similar. And now we can see how LG will actually attack the site now that they don't have a blitz opening in class.
Yeah, changing things up and looking like they're going to focus a bit more on a standard attack with a bit utility in the front of this push, right? You've got Ferda bringing out those Rotero drones on the Flores, can prioritize that utility destruction. You have a good bit of nades in pocket, 4 nades from Silent and Asian respectively, but again, a lot of destruction at their fingertips, even if it's just 4 nades. With those Roteros, with the flashes and the smokes that Eddie is bringing, a lot of options with how they want to approach this. We saw how quickly this attack flustered and fumbled last time. This time, we can expect Luminosity to slow things down a bit. It does look like they want to take the same approach, approaching from the south and going direct into study, maybe working their way down below to take main stairs and apply vertical pressure down below. But the one thing we don't see at all is any attacker presence on that master bedroom side of things. We don't see that extension from Unemployment being challenged just yet.
Got some presence below, though. 2 nades already used. Nothing much to say for it, at least in terms of kills. Still 2 for Asian. Ferda as well has Rotero drones, so there's plenty of ability for this attack to clear the utility top main. It just hasn't been done yet. At the very least, they do have the wall open, though, thanks to Ash using those Selmas, so He's not on the scoreboard just yet, but the attack is certainly getting a boost from his utility usage. Another Rotero drone goes down, and with the study shield, or sorry, not the study shield, but the top main shield still up, I believe, Ferda's only got one left. So now he's got to decide, is he going to put that utility in the site, try and scope it out, or is he going to make top main accessible for this attack? Hat almost eats a nade from below, and that's going to clue him into the fact that, you know, maybe the attack has some info on him that was assisting that nade, and he is immediately going to move. There is a barricade to his back, so he can really only move in one direction, but Asian, he's going to try and hit the site from the opposite side of the map as his team. Something that we know Asian likes to do, and something he typically does well, so hopefully Unemployment cognizant of that, leading later into the round as Ferda gets the leadoff pick.
Well, Silent, as it turns out, is also on the other side of the map than the majority of his team, but also for him, it'll work just fine. He'll collect one onto Hat, Ferda bounces back and gets another one, but 2 kills, big kills for Unemployment to retaliate. Indy's not done yet either. He's on 9, but hunting for his 10th as Ferda sits precariously around the other side. Eddie's taken a bit of damage here, but Indy hasn't given up this position. Asian, though, killing Mikey will mean Indy has to make a move. He has dropped the diffuser in front of him, and he should know where these last 2 attackers are positioned. He just did not anticipate Asian's flank in time. Luminosity continue this back and forth, and hitting the site from the back, as you said, Harrison, turned to be their saving grace.
Yeah, Silent and Asian getting some good kills there. As soon as Indy got that kill, dropping Case, and Mikey found one as well, it was a super winnable round. If Indy had killed Ferda and Mikey was still alive, then that definitely goes a different way, but Indy really needed his teammate to stay up. With Mikey dying, Indy, I mean, next to the study door, there was no getting away from that, especially with one coming from study, one coming from books. Indy was just a sitting duck. Really no way to win that. So well done to Luminosity for finding that hole in the defense, and that hole being the back of it. Unemployment not really putting enough manpower or stock in it. Ferda as well being allowed to get 2 kills from the study door really shouldn't be happening. I guess that open sight wall proved a lot more damaging than we had initially thought for Unemployment. So we find ourselves tied at 2 apiece. Neither team able to shake each other just yet. It has been back and forth through these first 4 rounds. Unemployment going to try and retake the lead on Trophy.
One more thing to note, I think, about the past 4 rounds, a pattern we've seen emerge. Obviously, we talked about how Silent and Asian heating up is going to be the key for Luminosity. But the one thing we did not anticipate, Harrison, was Indy popping off to this degree so early on. 10 kills through 4 rounds. And the thing is, Luminosity haven't quite learned their lesson yet. They're still trying to brute force their way in. Obviously, a fantastic shot there from Mikey, but don't get me wrong, Indy has been Luminosity's biggest obstacle. And right now, they're playing it like they would play any ordinary game. They see an engagement, they're trying to play the trades, they're going to force their way into his arms in an effort to get that kill. But Indy is just denying that. So many rounds he's denied it. Both the rounds Unemployment have taken, he's denied it. But here's the difference. Luminosity, they are up way more aggressively this time. They want to challenge early. They do not want to give Indy the opportunity to find those kills.
The fact that Silent just got away from that is remarkable. And now CZ's going to be on the hunt. I mean, you just highlighted, I said it earlier and I'll say it again, maybe this is less of a CZ map like I'm used to, and now Indy has decided the Villa is going to be his playground, but no refrag for Asian just yet. I mean, how could you? Mikey just got the kill. Beautiful shot, and there was really no recourse. Indy playing a very dangerous game. Here comes the peek, and Ferda catches him looking at the wrong side of the door. Indy, the lack of intel really striking him. Mikey gets the frag. He just peeks the doorway. Gets the trade on Ferda, and he's looking for more. Is Silence the next to go down? CZ finds his first kill. Eddie not dead, but lit up. Mikey goes for the reattempt and lands it. 3 kills for the Cade. This is his round. As Indy now dead, a different player steps up. Ash shotgunned in the side. While he's trying to look over towards Mikey, he'll be able to down the Cade and get the hell out of the building. Maybe go clean up the kill and pad his stats, but otherwise, he's still got Hat, CZ, and Karn to go up against. Each of these players, only 1 kill apiece, but Ash is still sitting on a donut. He's only got a minute left and not a lot of HP with which to clutch. Looks like for the meantime, Unemployment are going to let Mikey bleed out. He's just a mobile bleeding drone. at the moment until he's finished off here by Ash. But with that kill, Unemployment got the call that, hey, the guy has re-jumped in the building. He's by Brick's door, and now he is opening up the master wall. Again, very low HP means even a tag to the foot will kill him. The prone hole is very dangerous. He'll open it wider so he can actually walk through, but he's operating off of little to no info, and Karn kills him from the opposite site. Unemployment keep the back and forth game going and retake the 1-point lead.
Yeah, pretty simple in the end. Great patience from Unemployment in that 3v1. They knew they did not have to peek. They knew they didn't even have to move, because any movement would have given some intel to the side of Luminosity, and they decided, you know what, let's make Luminosity force their way in. We're not about to let Ash get a ridiculous clutch on us. All Ash could do was get that one kill onto Mikey, who was pretty much the only player who got a little bit too aggressive for his own good, but for good reason, because Mikey was on a heater that round, hit several very impressive shots, took several very aggressive gunfights, and won all 3 of them. Only natural that he would want to go for the 4th. But with that, Unemployment continued this back and forth. No team has taken 2 rounds in a row. They're just jostling for position right now, hoping that one of them can emerge from the half with the advantage. At this point, Unemployment have a chance to go up 4-2. Luminosity, they're just hoping to tie it.
Like you said, one trend continues, but one trend has been bucked. Instead of going to Dining, Unemployment retry Aviator, the first time in this half that they've opted to retry a site within the next 2 rounds. So we'll only see Dining once this half. We'll see them attempt AVG for the 3rd time. Successful the initial, unsuccessful on the 2nd attempt. Luminosity were able to take that, I guess I'll say in stride. Mikey and Indy made it close, but Luminosity did have a hefty advantage thanks to Asian and Silent hitting from Master. You got CZ down below again, assisted by these thorns. We saw how much Luminosity placed in nading from below. That was Silent's job, and CZ's looking to put a stop to that, while the rest of the team looks to repel up to Study, push Piers from maybe Master and 90 side once again, and the first shield from Unemployment goes down.
Luminosity making sure to take care of that shield. Given how much trouble it gave them in that first round, it slowed down that rush considerably, and we saw eventually in that 1v2 that the Glaz was never able to get through because of that shield. So an early use of the Rotero drone, just making sure that one piece of utility has been destroyed. But we'll likely see Ferda and those 3 remaining Rotero drones work his way to the other side of the map. There he is, over on the Study side of things now, where we'll likely see those drones sent in to destroy utility elsewhere. One difference, though, for Unemployment is they're not going to give up first floor control for free. CZ is staffing this position, hoping to suss out where these Luminosity attackers are working their way in from. And little did he know, there was a ping on his position, some good intel from Luminosity, so Asian gets a wall bang, no problem.
So Unemployment placing a player downstairs to stop the nades from below may have just cost them the advantage. Losing the first body, luckily for them, CZ's utility is already out, and more importantly than the primary utility, his shield is already out, but Indy gives away that main stairs control by peeking down. Easy pre-fire for Silent. A gas canister from Carnage B in response, but there will be no more coming from the smoke. He's downed, appears by Eddie. I heard the F2 ringing out as he went down, so it looks like he got that from the rappel. That leaves Hat and Mikey to pick up the pieces in a 2 versus 5. Karn at least picked up, though low HP, so 3v5. A little bit better for the defense. Good angle from Hat. He finds one, but immediately refragged from the Study window, or sorry, from the Study doorway by Ferda. Now 2 versus 4. Mikey with a lot on his shoulders considering Carnage B's health. Long shot onto Ferda will only tag up the shoulder, not grab the head, but the re-engage. Nice angle from Mikey. Silent, though, gets him through the wall. Carnage B refrags, but can't pick up his teammate. Ash moves his way through. The first kill for the ace, and Luminosity tie the half 3-3.
Yeah, there we go. The back and forth continues, and an Unemployment second attempt at AVG, rather 3rd attempt of AVG this half. It is also a failure, much like their attempt in the 4th round. But that ties us up at 3-3. It is still anyone's game. And Luminosity and Unemployment were both seeing some lows and some highs, right? We're seeing great intel use, great patience on the side of the defense. but we're also maybe seeing a couple of missteps, a couple of over-aggression like CZ just then. Downstairs, peeking a little bit too aggressively, didn't realize that there was intel on the side of Luminosity that they had working for them. Same thing goes for Luminosity. We've seen those moments where they're waiting for their team, they're pushing in very coordinated, and we've also seen a couple of moments where they've just sent it single file at a single defender, specifically Indy or Mikey, and how that's not worked out so well for them. But one thing that we can note over these last 2 rounds before we shift halves is that Indy hasn't gotten a single kill in these last 2 rounds. It was 10 kills through 4 rounds. Since then, it's been Mikey picking up a lot of that slack. It's been Karn, it's been Hat. Everyone's starting to find their groove a little bit, but it's mostly Mikey who's really stepped up.
Also, I must amend my statement from the end of last round. I slandered Ash a little bit. That was not his first kill. That was his second. I forgot about the one onto Mikey in Master when Ash got that exit frag. But I guess that was his first impactful frag. So I'm not wrong in one sense. It's actually Eddie, the only player left in the lobby dropping a donut, and someone who we're used to typically being a driving force for Luminosity. So hopefully the defensive half is what he needs to wake up. For Unemployment, it's mainly Indy and Mikey doing a lot of the dirty work, with CZ, Hat, and Carnage B falling behind. Very unexpected for CZ and Hat. No slander to Karn, but Karn is on the hard support, so getting those frags is not necessarily his job. Unemployment looking to start the round similarly to how LG did with first floor control, and their first obstacle will be this main shield from Asian.
Asian is feeling the pressure from both Study and from down below. That smoke going off in his face will not destroy anything, but will cloud his vision substantially. He'll back off because of it, and he narrowly escaped that nade, but so did Mikey as he almost died to his own teammate's nade. Hat, who was distracted by the main stairs shenanigans, was caught off guard by Silent sneaking in behind, and not only is Silent there to provide a good bit of impact, but Eddie is as well. So now Indy has to go on the hunt, just trying to take this 1v1 here in the closet in Library, and he's gonna lose it. Can Silent go for 3? Doesn't look like it as he misses the majority of that mag, and Mikey will finally deliver the kill, but huge impact from those players down below early in this round.
Picking off the Finka and picking off Indy, the raid boss for Unemployment, or at least one of 2, as the other raid boss goes down to Ash. Mikey on the floor, leaving Karn and CZ. 2 versus 4. LG are looking to break the back and forth that we've seen so far and be the first team to take 2 in a row. And it starts with Karn looking in the wrong way. CZ gets the refrag. Another for CZ, but Asian backs up his teammate from 90. And like I said, LG, the first team now to take 2 rounds in a row.
Love the way they played that extension on that bottom floor. Not maybe extension, but just aggressive roam presence. They had both Eddie and Silent in position. Instead of just having one player down there and no presence on the main stairs, they kind of doubled, if not tripled up compared to the setup that we saw from Unemployment just a few rounds ago. They had 2 players lurking around in Library, over in Piano, just trying to apply that pressure to Unemployment as they work their way in. Asian's job was, yes, hold main stairs as long as you can, but mostly it was delay. Allow those defenders sitting down below to make an impact, make Unemployment a little tunnel visioned on that main stairs position, force them to use a lot of utility, force them to accidentally nade themselves, which was a happy accident for Luminosity, and then allow your teammates to step up. And Silent did that so elegantly, ended up getting 2 kills, which is more impact than you would normally expect from a play like that. But look at the score right now. I mean, in direct contrast on both of these teams. On the one side, it's Silent and Asian doing the majority of the work. On the other side, it is Indy and Mikey doing the majority of the work. But everyone else starting to contribute, and this match is as close as we could have ever expected it to be.
Problem right now for Unemployment is that, well, they have 2 standout players, like you said, doing a lot of the heavy lifting. LG have 3 players fully awake right now, and especially now on the attack, you need that fragging potential more than ever, especially with Indy taking a little bit of a back seat in these last couple rounds. He hit 10 kills, on round 4? Didn't he hit? Yeah, he hit 10 kills on round 4. So it's been 3 rounds with no offensive production from Indy. So either Someone else has to step up in his place, or he's got to find his groove again. CZ with the opening pick, or what I thought would be an opening pick, but it's actually Ferda with that first frag onto Hat. Luckily, he's not able to get away, but Eddie comes downstairs for the assist. So what could have been a two-man advantage for one of these teams ends up being even, but Silent downstairs collapse. Indy, again, the sledge dead with really nothing being done. No kills, no nades, and that leaves Mikey and Karn in a 2v3. Luckily, they've got ample time to play with.
Wow, Luminosity really just threw 5 bodies at unemployment, didn't they? I mean, through 60 seconds, we saw 5 players die, 2 of them on the side of Luminosity, nearly a third and even a fourth, but Eddie and Silent proving very clutch in a couple of engagements. Had Eddie not gotten that refrag, Silent would have not been able to take that 1v1. Instead, it would have been a 2v1, and he would have had to back off, and it would have likely been a 3v2 in the other direction. So clutch refrag from Eddie, keeping Luminosity in the advantage after some early aggression on that defensive side, including Ferda kind of getting stuck in laundry down below. A classic problem when you're an aggressive defender trying to run outside. But Mikey, as he tries to push his way in, he'll expose himself through those holograms, communicating the position of both him and his teammate. And Luminosity, they step up at the perfect time. Through the wall and through the statuary door, they will clean up the round and take 2 defensive rounds in a row, but 3 rounds in a row in total.
Like you said, starting off with that brilliant roam downstairs from LG, picking off 3 of the unemployment members. CZ, the only player on the attack getting any kills that round. He was able to get the lead off on the Mozzie and Memo. He was able to refrag onto Ferda, but not much more than that. You leave Mikey and Karn in a 2 versus 3. But Silent played around his clones very well. That's kind of the struggle of fighting against an Alibi who's sitting right next to all of the holograms. You're not really looking for a hologram. You're just looking at a person to shoot. So obviously first thing pops up on Mikey's screen. He starts shooting at the holograms. It's not Silent. Silent re-engages because he's got the pings and just sees the tip of Karn's head as he throws a flashbang. And of course, assisted by those alibi scans, Ash getting that final frag. And LG, they went from the first team to put together 2 in a row to now 3 rounds in a row, and they lead by 2. Looking to put themselves on match point, they now move to Dining with a Pulse now at their A. Lots of info for him. Ferda playing Frost as well. Is an interesting operator for this site. An Asian picking up Legion. Aggressive spawn peek from Silent up the top of the car, but it won't net anything.
Yeah, even though we have some of this defense playing a bit more traditionally in terms of passivity and utility focus, mainly Eddie on the Pulse with that C4, allowing Ash to also play on the site, have that C4 in pocket. We still have the same Luminosity defense that we saw in that last round. A good bit of that aggression. Silent, as we just saw, going for a run out, a spawn peek. An Asian we saw on the opposite side of not only this top floor, but the bottom floor, just setting up goo mines, hoping to figure out where unemployment are entering from, and if they walk into his line of sight, well, he'll deal with them accordingly. But he's going to be out of luck for now, because unemployment, and pretty clearly, have all 5 bodies stacked up on this north and east side of the map. Working their way in on this top floor first is going to be their priority, but they are not going to bother with taking map control from the complete opposite side.
You don't have a Flores, so those shields are going to be tough to deal with unless they get those nades from below. But Silence getting aggressive. He sees the buck, and CZ dead for free. The drone far too late. No refrag for unemployment. And the buck is our first casualty. Not the most important operator in the world, judging by how unemployment is pushing, but Silent gets another before he's taken out. Hat 1, but refragged by Ferda as he tries to push the issue through the brick store. From the back, though, Astro Control forfeited by the defense. Indy gets the equalizer, but remember, that's not the site. They still got to transition downstairs, so Indy and Karn need to maximize this upstairs control. They've got a minute left, and Indy's on the sledge, but with this C4, the entire round could be changed, but nope, it's bricks. It's a hard floor, and Eddie wastes it.
Kill onto Ferda was important, but Ferda had essentially committed to that top floor and given up his life. So in this 2v2, theoretically, Luminosity should still feel very comfortable and still have the advantage. Now, they've wasted both of their C4s with not even a single HP worth of damage
We saw the foot.
to account for it. But now they're, well, I guess safe on the site below. Like you said, Indy should have seen the foot there of Ash, and Ash is also able to relocate and rotate, at least try to rotate around. He will finally shotgun himself a bit of a rotate out of bikes, but repositioning towards the site and also worrying about Eddie, who's also rotating around. Luminosity are playing this one a bit looser than Unemployment are expecting, and that could get them into trouble. Indy is just staring right at him, and Ash stares right back too. Sitting in Tetris, just waiting to get swung, and Indy wakes up again, takes 2 big gunfights and wins them, and keeps Unemployment in this fight.
Just what Unemployment's doctor ordered. Indy 3K on the round for him. It started off really rough. With CZ going down, I mean, luckily, you have that, what's the word I'm looking for? Redundancy. You have the redundancy with the soft breach in the sledge, so it wasn't the end of the world, but, you know, the whole object of that is to make it much more efficient. Sa, in fact, gets another kill before he's finally traded by Indy. So Unemployment start off with a pretty big disadvantage, and with Hat going 1-for-1, it seemed like they were going to lose the round, but Indy steps up, gets the equalizer, and uses his soft breach really effectively, not to get kills, but to force the defense to reposition. And that's what it's all about, right? Sometimes you get kills on the soft breach because you lay out, some soft breach players will kind of lay out a maze, right? Like they'll pre-sledge because they know where the defenders are going to have to move. So once they make the move, they're easy to catch. But the whole object of soft breaching above a site is to force the defenders out of position, and Indy did that perfectly. Eddie and Ash were forced off the site. By the time Ash came back to Tetris, Karn had already made his way in. By the time Eddie made his way through Bike, Indy was already holding the flank. So beautiful job to those last 2 members of the attack.
Yeah, love that you highlighted that because, I mean, a perfect example because they weren't just forced into awkward positions in the site or predictable positions. They both left the site. They both had to straight up leave. I mean, we saw Eddie rotate around towards the living room and library, all the way through mudroom, and then we saw, of course, we saw the mute. That was what, Ash rotate through bikes, through that rotation, and back toward the red stairs. Substantial rotations and great work up above, but now that top area, that top floor, is going to be an early focus here. They're trying to clear it out. That's exactly what Unemployment need to do, given their approach on this map. But it's not going so well off the bat. They've already lost a body. They've lost their Finka, which is not ideal, especially in the early rounds. CZ is the next to take this fight, but right now he's kind of alone and has to worry about this deployable shield and the angle that Ferd is holding.
What's not great for what's not great for Unemployment is that Eddie has started to wake up. Went from 0 kills to 3 in just the last couple of rounds, and losing Hat early, you lose nades, you lose a Gon 6, and those boosts. Never great for the attack. You never want to lose the Finka as your first death. So, a minute and a half remaining. The top red shield finally blown away, but the player behind it has already evacuated. So the nade from Indy doesn't find a soul. CZ now the only operator on the attack with nades remaining. And there's still 2 shields to clear, if I'm not mistaken. Speaking of clearing, Mikey's doing that solo, and Eddie is just waiting right in the corner by the main door. Mikey's not playing off of a lot of info with him. He's got info upstairs, and that's not really going to help him much when he walks into a Rooney. Luckily, he'll go into Piano, or sorry, that's actually CZ and Piano. Mikey will leave, not giving his life up just yet. In the meantime, though, it's that frag grenade from below to net Unemployment, the equalizer. Ferda now dead. The second nade, incredibly poorly cooked from CZ, and what should be an even game right now has now been blown to a 3 versus 4.
And with that kill, Eddie knows that the bottom floor is no longer staffed by the attack, so he'll rotate up top and join the team, who is going to be a full 4v3 on the bomb site itself. With 25 seconds, these smoke grenades starting to come out. Still one more for Ash in pocket. Asian losing his life in the early scuffle, but only 15 seconds remain for Unemployment to do something or anything with this site. They'll push right in, but walk into Eddie's open arms. That'll leave Karin all by himself with 5 seconds left on the clock. He's gonna walk into a shotgun. No, he'll survive one, gets the second as well, but Eddie stays alive and doesn't allow Karn to go absolutely nuclear. Luminosity take another.
Big reposition from Eddie there. I was wondering where Mikey got the kill on the Asian from. I didn't realize they had an open vault amongst that. So Unemployment, losing the opening game, especially with CZ killing himself. We have to talk about that. Like, sure, haha, it's funny. We saw him nade himself. Cool. But, I mean, that sucks for Unemployment. You take away the guy downstairs, the possible late main stairs flank while the rest of the team pushes vault. You force Eddie, well, you don't really force Eddie, but you allow Eddie back upstairs to bolster the defense, right? If CZ is still downstairs, either he kills Eddie and removes that from the equation, or Eddie needs to stay down there / kills CZ a lot later into the round, and that means Eddie is not going to be there on site to replace Asian, because clearly Unemployment did not expect another guy to be there, judging by Indy just kind of walking in and not paying any attention to the shield. So that nade from below onto CZ was not only, a loss of man count, but also a big positional advantage for LG.
Yeah, now on match points, they're going to head to Trophy and Statuary in an effort to close this one out. And we're likely to see that same aggression. Last time we were here, it was crazy aggression. It was a full force of defenders sitting down below in the kitchen, in that dining area. Right now, we see Ferda and Silent also holding a similar position. Eddie down below by the main stairs. Somebody up above in Aviator right now, fully extended is this Luminosity defense. But the difference here is that Unemployment should be ready for this. They've walked into a setup just like this before, with Luminosity all over the map, but it doesn't look like Indy, at least, had his head up, had his gun up. He did not pay enough attention because he's already lost his life. 13 kills, no more he will find on this potentially final round of this map.
Indy going down is probably the worst thing that could have happened for Unemployment, not just because he's 13-9 and their top fragger, because of course you still have Mikey, who's been doing very well for himself, but that's the sledge with nades. There's 2 shields on the board, and you never want to lose a set of nades. Luckily, CZ and Hat still have some in their arsenal, but they've already used 1. They've got 3 left. They're going to have to be on point if they want to get rid of these shields, stopping them from moving into the objective. There's a jammer on the other side of this doorway. It'll be destroyed by the Twitch drone. Eddie eats a nade to the feet, but it does not kill. And that sucks for Unemployment. There's no equalizer. It's just damage, and as long as Eddie has a gun, as long as you shoot your opponent in the head before they hit you, then you can still do work. Continuing to drone, they'll find that Master is clear, but below is not. Ferda, an important C4. Asian follows it up despite the low HP on the flank, and Mikey and Carnage B. 2 versus 5, a shotgun waiting for them below. Presence in Master now that Mikey is trying to fight against, and it's Silent on the Alibi, who has been a indomitable force for Luminosity. A second C4 from Asian, 3 kills now for the Mozzie to put this map away. Mikey's got it all to do, 45 seconds left to ace and win this round. And LG are not giving him a lot of opportunities. A disgusting angle from Asian, 4 kills from the newbie to this team. Well, other than Ash, that is. And LG take the map.
Yeah, LG electing to start the map on the attacking side, something we haven't talked about yet, but now is worth mentioning because we saw how well that worked in their favor. They came out of their attacking half with the 3 rounds they needed, only dropped 1 more round by the time this map was concluded. 7-4, the end score line here as Luminosity go on defense. They ramp up the aggression, and Unemployment just could not get a handle on it at any point. They had a moment here or there where it looked like they could take it, or they looked like they could bridge that gap, but only 1 round on the attacking side on Villa is not a good indication that you figured out what the defense was doing and you figured out what adjustments to properly make.
especially with Indy and Mikey. I mean, against a team like Luminosity, who are so frag heavy, right? Asian was on one. Silent and Ferda were both on one. Eddie, who started the match with a donut, ended almost positive because he started ramping things up on the defense. Even Ash, who's coming in as a sub, didn't do half bad. Again, took him a little bit to get on the scoreboard, but he started having more and more impactful kills as the map went on. Whereas with Unemployment, it was very scattered. Even the contributions from Indy became more and more, as Ash and Eddie got more and more into the game, the more the map went on, Indy's contributions became more and more unreliable. I mean, he had 10 kills in 4 rounds, and after an 11-round map, I think finished with 13.
Yeah.
And that's
off in the end.
That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. You just didn't have enough consistent production from Unemployment. Luminosity, on the other hand, just got better as the map went on. But until then, until next map, we're going to go back to the analyst desk where CJ, I'm going to blame him for convincing me for switching my vote, and hopefully he has a lawyer-worthy defense of himself.
Yeah, you're gonna need a real full team of lawyers on that one, Cookies. But in all seriousness, yeah, Mikey and Indy were looking great, but it just seems, I guess my question for you, Cookies, is are the issues of Unemployment right now, can they be kind of chalked up or associated with just a lack of time together with a consistent roster? Or do you think that there are bigger issues here? Because, I mean, there were good moments, but there were a lot of worse moments.
Okay, I don't want to say it's a bigger issue because last week was still really good for the team. There's still very high highs for this team, so I don't think they're one of the teams that we can, accuse of having like some horrific, terrible issue. I think it's just like Luminosity's a good team. One of the reasons Luminosity's a good team, right? We can transition into that. They're really good at the goofy little micro plays. Like right there on the replay you just saw, Silent is literally just swinging across Astro, walking in the bathroom, getting little chip plays that are going their way that are just absolutely causing problems for Karn's team, which we've heard in the past is a team that struggles when they have those little stupid stuff like that happens to them. It's like, oh, that kind of breaks their whole game plan. And we talk about the game plan, the part of the game plan should have been Hat dropping numbers, CZ dropping numbers.
Yes, CJ, I'm going to interrupt you now because if the Hat looked fit, then Harrison's case would have been an acquit. So,
mine too, bro.
Seeing CZ and Hat all the way down, I'm glad that you picked up on that joke, Brim. But
I did.
Hat and CZ not doing too hot. Those are your entries. Those are your ones that you expect to be going frag heavy as well as Mikey. Sure, Indy picked up some slack, and this was the best that we've ever seen Indy play. But when you're playing against a Luminosity team that CJ, like you were saying, was doing all those micro plays, if they saw any gap, they were trying to plug it. They were pushing through, finding the cracks in anything on the side of Unemployment's attacks, defenses, everything. That's just not a recipe for success. CZ and Hat, they needed to be on. Hat was just dying, getting absolutely farmed on the attacking side, which is where we typically see him excel. He was getting absolutely farmed like 8 russet potatoes by Silent and Crouch walking on Alibi. It was every single round pretty much. It was just, Silent onto free kill on a Hat. Silent, free kill on a Hat, over and over again.
Yeah, in a match where we saw a 3-3 first half, it seemed like one team, being Luminosity, continued to find their game and work their way up, and Unemployment just, it wasn't that they went off, I think they just couldn't get it together as Luminosity were improving. Now, we have Thesis, who is the analyst for Luminosity. We'll ask him a few questions. Thesis, big win for you guys. I have to say, obviously, not quite the stage now that obviously you had in stage 1, but we are seeing a resurgence. Do you guys feel like you're back in stage 1 form, or are you still trying to get there?
We are still trying to get that, like we're practicing a lot, we're working a lot, and that stage 1 was awesome. We finished 9 wins and 2 losses. So we're working on it,
And I mean, stats wise, obviously we can see everyone chipped in, but watching it, you do get a real sense of everyone. I mean, even though Silent went off today, Asian as well, we've got a real sense that every player has bought in and is contributing to the team. Is that your sense as well?
Yes, yes, of course. Like every single player of the team is very important. As I
Hmm.
told in the last interview, like
Hmm.
everyone, even Kicks that's not here today, is
Hmm.
very important. So Ash is very important, and all those players. So we practice for this. We don't have only one player that stands out and make clutches, and like we have good players. All of
Yeah.
them are pretty good players. That's the secret.
Yeah, and one final question for you. When it got down to it in the map ban, Unemployment ended up choosing Villa over Chalet. Were you guys happy with that, or did it not really matter to you either way when it got down to those two?
It doesn't really matter because we're good in those two maps.
Mhm.
Those map battles here in CL, in my opinion, is very easy to make them because
Mhm.
teams are very predictable. Like we knew they were banning that maps. We knew they were banning those
Mhm.
operators. So we can read them, we can analyze them, and to get in the match and win.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Thesis, and good luck
Thank
on
you,
the rest of the stage in the year.
thank you.
Have a good one. Yeah, I liked what he said. Cookies. I think you got something to say there?
No,
Oh,
totally
okay.
unrelated. Totally unrelated. Okay.
Okay. I'm just looking out for my guys here. So,
Mhm.
as he said, Luminosity not quite in the form that we saw them in stage 1, but I think there's a good case to be made that they are getting back to that point. But they're not the only team to play today. They're not the only team that's going to rack up a win. We got 4 more teams that will get wins today. Maybe 3 cuz Nocturnes is in there twice, so hey, you never know, math is fun. But we're going to get back to those matches after a quick little break, and when we do get back, will be that first Nocturnes LSR matchup.